welcome everybody. My name is Josh Mandel. I'm the Director of Policy and International Programs at Halcyon. We are a social enterprise incubator in Washington, D.C. With me, I have the real deal, who are some of the companies that are in the current cohort of entrepreneurs at the incubator and some who have already graduated from the program. We're sector agnostic, so as you'll see, I'll introduce each of the companies quickly so they can tell you what we do. That's primarily designed to help you understand what social enterprise is, how we define social enterprise, and impact. But the real focus of what the press conference is about today is Halcyon's release of a deeper dive, social enterprise ecosystems in the United States. We're practitioners at Halcyon. We are an active residential business incubator. Everyone here has either lived or currently lives at the Halcyon facility. We take 16 companies a year. We've received in the last cohort over 305 applications for 8 slots, so it's a highly competitive program to get into. And I would say the principal criteria for getting in is the company and or the founder needs to have some sort of transformative idea for addressing a 21st century challenge. And we teach them that it's not so bad to have dollar signs in your eyes as a person who really wants to have kind of a social impact in the world. So does that make sense, everyone? So I'd love to start off with just kind of letting the companies actually do quick introductions of what their business is, so that way you can get a feel for when I'm going to talk about how we've measured social enterprise ecosystems across the United States, what it is that we're actually talking about. So do you want to go ahead and start off? Let's pass the microphone down. Oh, yeah. Just a quick 30-second deal.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Gary Mao. I founded a company called Toto Express. What we do is we work with rural artisans all over India. We teach them how to digitize their art, so take physical pieces of work and turn it into high-res digital files, have a big archive of that. And then we monetize those digital assets with product manufacturers like fashion apparel, to interior designers, and have them sign licensing agreements to pay royalties back to those communities for all the sales they make from items inspired by the patterns in our database.
Hi, my name is Ashley King-Bischoff, and I'm a co-founder and CEO of Anona. So Anona, what we do is we're trying to transform global food chains, right? So we work all the way from the farmer level with small-scale farmers or small-scale producer and create transparent supply chains by using software that's cloud-based so that anyone can access really important data across an entire global food chain. So if you want to know the quality of your product that was sourced in Kenya, where our headquarters are in Africa, all the way through the United States or into the UK, you can do that by accessing our platform. My co-founder has also gone through the Halcyon incubator. His name's Luis Teixeira, and he's here today.
Hey, my name is Param Jaggi. I'm the CEO of a company called Hatch. It's a website that lets you build an app all without code. So imagine like a Squarespace, but for apps. So we allow businesses to deploy an app to iOS, Android, and the web for a fraction of the cost that it would take with a normal development firm. We work with social enterprises around the world, including a lot of Halcyon Fellows, Ashoka, and a lot of social enterprises.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amira Idris. I am the CEO and founder of Theravi. At Theravi, we develop drug-free wearable devices to help manage nerve pain, and we're currently focused on helping people with amputated limbs who suffer from phantom limb pain manage their pain using our wearable vibration device. And if many of you don't know, phantom limb pain is basically when someone with an amputation feels ongoing pain in a limb that's no longer there because the brain is unable to recognize that the limb has been amputated. And unfortunately, this pain can really affect the quality of life of the individual. So we found that by using our device, we're able to mitigate the pain that these individuals experience, therefore helping them with their pain management.
Hi there, my name is Karima Ladani. I'm the founder and CEO of Barakat Bundle. We create life-saving bundles for mothers and newborns in South Asia to reduce preventable infant and maternal mortality. So we work with local artisans in India to create bamboo safe sleep cradles. We sell those cradles in North America at a premium and use the proceeds to subsidize distribution of these life-saving bundles in South Asia.
How's it going? I'm Sage. I founded a company called Words Live. We're an education technology company focusing on increasing literacy in urban and rural districts. The platform we build is predicated on integrating song lyrics into classroom text and automating lesson plans for teachers.
Great, thanks a lot, Sage. And thanks, everybody. So hopefully everyone's got a good feel for the kinds of companies that we incubate, the diversity of sectors. And there's just not a lot of data out there on what helps social enterprise ecosystems tick. There are very few incubators and accelerators that focus exclusively on social enterprises. But the fact of the matter is, and the reason that we've produced this report, is social enterprise is here, it's happening, it is a real thing, it is not just for impact investors or side projects. This is an investable group of companies. These companies have a phenomenal kind of double bottom line or triple bottom line where they are also, in addition to creating jobs and helping grow local economies, they are solving major 21st century problems as well. So there's a lot of interest from a lot of governments around the world and a lot of cities across the United States on how do we attract more social entrepreneurs, how do we build up an ecosystem to attract them, what is different about a social entrepreneur than a traditional startup, and I think that what you'll find is actually very little. It may have been the reason that they became entrepreneurs in the first place, but at the end of the day, these are all CEOs and founders who want to create a viable business and have an impact as well. So we decided we would partner with several corporations and think tanks and organizations and go and survey people around the country of what has actually helped their city to attract and retain and grow a social enterprise ecosystem. So that has resulted in this report. I would have brought some for everybody, but I packed light on this trip. But luckily, we've got the URL, socientcity.org, S-O-C-E-N-T for social entrepreneur, city.org, and has an interactive map of the cities that we've actually looked at across the United States. It talks about the actual criteria that we use and methodology behind seeing what actually creates a vibrant social enterprise ecosystem. And we've looked at 21 cities across the United States. We've conducted over 800 interviews with entrepreneurs and stakeholders and ecosystem supporters from every single sector. And we produced what we believe to be the kind of quintessential data set on what helps social entrepreneurship thrive in a city. And just to give you a little bit of background, there are four principal criteria in the report that we look at as far as what really attracts social enterprise. The first one, of course, is funding. I mean, you've got to have access to capital. You've got to have a funding stream that allows a social enterprise or any startup to thrive in order to attract them to a city. The second is human capital. And this is not in any particular order. In fact, a lot of the data in here suggests that, for example, human capital access is a lot more important than access to financial capital. The human capital component is exceptionally important. Who are the pool of either developers or scientists or CFOs and CEOs that you can actually kind of bring into the mix, networks of advisors and mentors, and just having a whole ecosystem of people that you can pick from. Quality of life is the third pillar. And I assure you that Silicon Valley wouldn't be what it is if it didn't have kind of great weather and a great quality of life. And there's definitely something to, entrepreneurs want to kind of live in a place that they like and they enjoy, where they can, have a good quality of life. That is certainly an important component of having a thriving social enterprise ecosystem. And then the fourth is regulation and receptivity. So does the city that you're talking about actually have programs and policies that create a positive regulatory environment for your company to thrive? Or is the contrary the case? Are they more receptive towards or exclusively receptive towards large corporations and don't really understand how to work with startups and how to kind of help them on their way? So those are the four principal pillars that the report looked at. There are 21 cities in the report. As of 2017, Boston, Massachusetts actually ranks #1 in the United States. That goes all the way through to San Francisco, Washington, D.C. being #3, which is interesting because most people around the world and even in the United States think of one thing when they think of Washington, D.C. And I can assure you that all of these startups and all of these founders are so good that they probably could have gone anywhere in the world to establish, and they chose Washington, D.C. for a very specific reason, and I'm sure they all have their own reasons, but Washington, D.C., because of its incredible talent base, because of the fact that it is surrounded by robust, technically oriented universities, because every single big company in the world has some kind of presence in Washington, D.C. You just have an incredible pool of resources there. Not to mention it's a relatively small city. Unfortunately, it's a very expensive city. But luckily at Halcyon, our fellows actually get to live at our facility for 5 months for free. And we take zero equity in the companies, I should mention. And there's a whole host of other reasons why Halcyon is awesome, but that's a whole other press conference. So basically, what I'd really like to kind of look at is like who's at the bottom of the list and why is that? So for example, you have Detroit and New Orleans as number 20 and 21. That does not mean that Detroit and New Orleans aren't great places for social entrepreneurship to succeed. In fact, I was just in Detroit a few weeks ago, and not just the city, but the companies, the philanthropies there are making huge investments in their startup ecosystem, and they're and looking to start to attract social enterprises. New Orleans has several incubators that are now focused on social enterprise. They just need to kind of work on a couple of the pillars that make more sense for them. Let me just kind of stop. Why is this report important? First of all, it gives cities an idea of where they stand as far as their interest in becoming more prolific when it comes to social enterprises that they incubate. It provides them a roadmap for how to actually improve on those 4 pillars. It provides the cities that are actually doing well to be able to know what they need to keep doing in order to keep being successful in this respect. So this is really a tool for policymakers in addition to entrepreneurs to understand kind of what needs to happen and what's happening in various cities around the world. So let me just kind of open it up just quickly to the startups, and you guys had an opportunity to kind of go anywhere or be anywhere. What was what's the principal criteria in you deciding kind of where to establish your business?
So for me, as a global health startup, Washington, D.C. seemed like a really opportune location because of the international connections. Working as a startup in the U.S. that has impact and supply chains around the world is always a challenge. And so having those local connections made that global aspect of our business a lot more accessible, and that was really important to us.
For me, choosing Washington, D.C. was, especially Halcyon, so one of the things was getting the opportunity to have a space where I could really spend time just focusing on my company, trying to grow and scale it, and getting funding and housing to actually stay and work on my company fully. But one of the main reasons I stay in Washington, D.C. is one of my big goals of my company is to work with veterans who have amputations, so people in the military who unfortunately have suffered from some form of amputation. And trying to work with the government to basically help us get these devices out to our veterans. And trying to understand the policy and the legislation that goes with healthcare in the United States and with, again, our veterans, one of the big things that I'm focusing on right now.
For me, it's a little interesting. I actually left D.C. and went to Boston, so I did try to go to one of the hot spots there. And in particular, I went to grab some engineering talent. Because that was like the one area that I was having difficulty with in DC. But once I did that, I came right back to DC. DC just has for us just an assortment of resources, be it the intellectual property, the law firms. There's not a single powerhouse law firm that's not in DC. You have government access to government contracting, which is another interesting lane for a startup to sort of partner with the public sector. And then you just have great philanthropists and socially minded investors there. So it has like everything that I could possibly want, and I had to come back.
Yeah, actually, to that point, for Hatch, what we were looking for was a traditionally non-technical hub. And so if you look at somewhere like San Francisco, where everyone either knows a developer or they are a developer themselves, right? So we were looking for a place where there's a lot of organizations from different industries, different verticals, that don't have the same access to software development talent.
Yeah, I'll keep it short, but we're based in Nairobi, Kenya. It's sort of the origins of our company, and we were looking for a place that had a lot of interest in developing sub-Saharan African markets. So USA, large NGOs, their hubs are in DC, so it's a great way to build partnerships and get a lot of exposure to some of the macroeconomic challenges and systems and markets in developing countries across sub-Saharan Africa. And that's actually come to fruition, so it's been really helpful having a base in DC.
For me, I think because I would characterize my organization as intersecting two particular initiatives. One is around arts and kind of cultural preservation, another around economic livelihoods. With DC in particular, I think honestly there are often times where I find myself in environments that you have to almost rationalize why you do what you do. Like, why are you working on livelihoods? Why does that matter? And particularly the arts. Like, why does the arts matter? But in DC, the beautiful thing is I almost never have to make that rationalization around people. They just get it. Like, it's important. In fact, they're more questioning of whether or not what I'm doing is truly impactful, which is exactly the conversation I want to have. The other side is even, as others have mentioned, around resources. If you talk about organizations like Nat Geo, USAID, Smithsonian, things like that, like these are places that have historically put funding and money into the exact type of initiative that I work on. And so, yeah, like the resources in that regard and the opportunity to collaborate is huge in DC.
Great. So just a couple of points on the data. You can actually, in the report, you can actually look and see how each city, the differences in the survey results based on gender. It turns out that women and men are actually looking for tend to look for different things in an ecosystem for their city, whereas mentorship may be the most important thing to one person and access to capital maybe, and it also breaks it down by race and based on the survey results. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of look at the data and kind of help it to kind of fit what you're looking to do. So I certainly recommend taking a look at that. If anyone has any questions on kind of the methodology and or kind of how useful this data is. I mean, one example I can give you is that the city of Washington, D.C. has actually taken data from this report and has worked social enterprise into the broader economic development strategy for the entire city. So we expect and hope that a lot of other cities will do that, because as you can see, these are the people who are actually going to be the real change makers in the world, and they need the right kind of ecosystem in order to thrive. So we thought that collecting this kind of data and sharing it with everybody, Halcyon is a 501c3 public nonprofit. All of the data that we collect and everything that we do is public information. So anybody can feel free to contact me, j.mandel@halcyonhouse.org, to discuss the report further. And we're open for any questions anybody might have.
So I went through Halcyon 3 years ago, and I actually went through the program with a different company. So I was working on a device that reduces carbon emissions from cars. Halcyon actually gave me the resources to start thinking about commercializing that technology, but then we ended up licensing it to an automotive company. And so they kind of gave me the mentorship and kind of the space to be able to explore different paths. And then I started my recent company right after the program, right? And so ended up in DC after Halcyon because of the program.
Yeah, I'd actually say I have a pretty similar story. We came to Halcyon with this great idea to expand a trading company in East Africa, buying from smallholder farmers, selling to retailers who really appreciated the quality we were delivering. And it came with a lot of working capital needs. So I was going in with kind of a large seed raise. And what ended up happening is I met really great partnerships through Deloitte and a few others that sort of had a perspective on East Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa at large, and said, hey, you're not the only person with some of the challenges you're facing procuring from smallholder farmers, and you've built this really interesting technology. Actually, maybe you might want to think about providing that to exporters who want to trace their supply chain. They really want to know about their food, and they want to know, am I impacting my suppliers in a good way, bad way, and who are my suppliers? How can I keep track of them? So I also met Zay in the incubator. He was working on something else, and we actually came together and completely changed the business model, changed the name, rebranded, and we've become a tech company that's going to have much greater scale, much more impact, and I think change a lot more food systems in the future than just sort of a regional approach. So that was a really nice insight being provided by Halcyon that I might not have seen just on my own.
Yeah, I definitely agree with them. So my company actually was founded in Delaware, but I actually ended up moving to DC and applying to Halcyon because I really needed funding, but it wasn't really a big part of it. But much.
So I found the programming to be really uniquely geared to my needs in a way that previous accelerators did not. Secondly, I came in, Amir and I are still in Halcyon. So I came in with a need to develop my supply chain. I'm in the later stages of my product development, and my goal at the end of Halcyon is to have my supply chain set up so that I'm ready to go to market. And we have had access to strategic consultants who can work with us on a deliverable, communications consultants, a leadership coach, and a mentor in our field. And we have projects, we are like their clients. That kind of access has been something that I would never have been able to afford or have access to prior to Halcyon. So those have been really tangible outputs that I am starting to see the results of, and that has been an incredible benefit to being in Halcyon. They would offer them in an ad hoc way. So I could get a meeting with those people, but I could not be a client for them where I said, this is a project I want to work on over the next 4 months, and they meet with me and actually provide me with deliverables. That's something that's really unique to my experience here.
And similarly, I did some of the same incubators in addition to Halcyon. I walked in to Halcyon with just like an idea, right? Like I had proved the concept out from a programming perspective in the schools, but for the technology, all I had was like a blueprint in my mind. And I think the real benefit with Halcyon, and I think is they fill the gaps that you have, and they also shine lights on your blind spots. And that's effectively where those resources kick in. And they've done it in a way that I just hadn't experienced in other incubator programs. So walked in with an idea, proved out the concept in the classroom, but didn't have any tech. A year out, we had partnerships with school districts and beta testers on a new platform. I think a lot of that just had to do with the mentorship, like you said. And my mentor actually became one of my partners after so I'm 2 years out now as well. So it's that kind of relationship. They pair you very carefully and strategically with a certain mentor in your field. And obviously, that relationship can become fruitful afterwards. So I just think they do a good job of like pairing and rapid resources.
Yeah, I would, so yeah, for our venture where we started, we were actually, when we joined Halcyon, we were fully operational in India. We were fully incorporated. We had product market fit. We had clients going. But where we were at that time was we were kind of growing at a linear level in a sense that like, I can work 1 extra hour and then get that extra output in terms of customers or revenue and things like that. And then we came to Halcyon specifically to think through how we can start to scale faster than that linear pace. And also, frankly, I think even as we are in that state, I would say the support for artisan ventures was still something that was a struggle for us to find, and finding people that really resonated with that message was something we really badly wanted. And exactly to what Sage was saying, a lot of incubators and organizations provide mentors, right? Like the word almost is can be cliche at times, but they really, bespoke kind of look for people that get it. I think a lot of people, when I explain the venture, my venture, they're like, I don't get it. That makes no sense. But literally, the guy they paired me up with did the exact same thing I did 20 years ago, in a obviously different country, different capacity. But I was like, oh my gosh, I would not have been able to find you searching the entire world, but that is who I'm looking for. And this guy, just like with Sage, he still works with me today. We work with each other actually. He helps my venture, I help his. It's a beautiful thing. And yeah, those are kind of the elements I think I got most out of the program.
Great. So as you can see, there's not a city in the world that wouldn't want to attract this kind of caliber and quality of entrepreneurs. And the data within this report, we think, will be a valuable tool in order to proliferate social enterprises around the world. So unless there's any other questions, I've been given the wrap sign. So thank you very much.